everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Apologies for the lack of face cam. I will explain that at another date, but for now, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to one of our weekly The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated in Another World as an Aristocrat discussion videos. Today we're talking all about episode 8, Rights of Choice, but before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AnyTube know that you're here. Don't forget to boop the up snoot if you haven't done so already. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this thing, and my immediate thoughts is that I am already sad at the exit of my girl Maha. Maha's exit breaks my heart, because I'm not going to lie, of the cast that we have, she is absolutely my favorite. I think she is so great. I think her story is so impactful and so sad. Again, as I said back 2 weeks ago when we first get introduced to Maha, the episode's a little intense. it's a very intense episode. But I do think that the author is at a point where, even though they are the one, who wrote Redo of Healer, which we all sort of shake a finger at, like, you did a bad thing, but they are showing that clearly there was a reason for Redo of Healer. That's not to say that their writing skills are just that. I'd say that their skills are actually quite good. When it comes to writing and showing how despicable what happened to Maha is and her group is, they actually do a phenomenal job. It's actually impressive to see how much that trauma affected them. I will say, like, I when I saw the very beginning of the episode, I was like, not again, when the girls get attacked by those two thugs. But then you see that Maha shows up, and she's looking a little older, and she's this sort of protective badass type all of a sudden now, and it's like I'm like, ooh, okay, what's going on with my girl? She's become this sort of like badass, almost sort of, for lack of a better comparison, Black Widow type. She's like Natasha Romanoff all of a sudden, only with blue hair instead of red. And she's essentially becoming a bit of an information and money broker in the town of Miltu. And we find out that it's actually been about 2 years. There's a small 2-year time skip where we even see that Tart is becoming a bit of like a badass as well, with the title of the Lightning Quick Battle Maiden, which is funny, but I don't have much to say about Tart outside of Tart is Tart. We like Tart, but she's not as cool as Maha. And it is interesting, though, Tart becoming a bit of the muscle of the group, while Maha is becoming the sort of information and money broker type, while Lug is going to remain the ever stalwart assassin. But Maha is sort of filling in the role that Ilig Balor is leaving behind, Lug's former life. She's sort of going to be taking over. Since the cosmetic industry has completely shifted with Lug's moisturizer, this leaves Lug in this weird position where leaving means he has to put somebody in charge. He even starts to kind of question if he should leave. At least others do. A lot of people do. They kind of point out that, like, Miltu seemed to fit you. Like, you actually seem like you could have belonged there. But we'll get into that in a bit. Lug returning to his old life, though, does mean, obviously, that Maha is not only in charge of Orna in Miltu, but also that Maha is essentially going to be left behind, which is obviously really upsetting if you're a fan of hers like I am. And it's funny because Maha explains that she wants to expand. She wants to take over shops in neighboring towns, one that's actually owned by her father. At least before he was killed, it was owned by her father. As we find out, when now I'm getting confused. When Lug looked into Maha's past, he discovered her family history, that her father was this merchant and blah blah blah, like, we knew this, but that he was killed by his former business partner, and Maha wants to take over that shop and sort of kick her father's killer out and take the company back. And Lug does tell her, like, we don't want personal drama coming into our business, but because of that, I know that you will handle this quickly and with grace, right? Like, basically giving Maha the permission to, even though it's a personal affair, to go into this and make sure that they take this guy down. And I really appreciate that because it shows the trust that he has in Maha. And it's also really sweet when we see the girls show up and the rest of the gang, and they buy this rare herbal tea for Lug, and they send him off. And he tells the girls, but he's also essentially telling Maha the same, as he'll later do, where he says that even though he's leaving, he won't forget any of the girls at all, and he certainly won't forget to come back and visit Maha at the very least. And that exit, I'm not gonna lie, made me really sad. It made your boy real sad to see Maha just up and disappear like that, because Maha, again, she's, I think, my favorite character in the show, like maybe even more than Lug, although I do like Lug quite a bit. Maha's definitely my favorite of the cast that we have so far. Well, Kian, though. Kian and Maha are my favorites. But Maha leaving was definitely sad. And even Tart is going to miss Maha, even though they were sort of like rivals, and we'll get into the love triangle? More like a love square. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, Maha's absolutely going to be missed by Tart, so Lug does the cool thing and says like, all right, well, don't worry about it. I'll send you off on shipments, to go see Maha again. And it was very sweet. I really enjoyed the friendship that was built between Tart and Maha quite a bit. And it's going to be sad to see Lug and Tart without Maha around, even though it wasn't a terribly long time, and Tart has certainly been with Lug a lot longer. It's just sad to think that they're not going to be together anymore. 2 years is a long time to spend with someone. So to have them just sort of up and disappear and be left behind, it is very upsetting. And it's funny because there's a few hints throughout the episode to two separate events that will later be brought up at the end of the episode. And we're going to get into that now as we talk about Lug's big decision. There's two things brought up. The first is that there's this sort of consistent reminder from other characters about how much they wish Lug would stay in Miltu, and how much Miltu seemed to fit him more. Like working at Orna and being this merchant really seemed to fit Lug quite a bit, to the point where his adoptive dad, the merchant who took him in as Ilig Balar, Mr. Balar, explains to Kian that he should stay, that Lug should stay, that being a merchant is likely better for him. Not only because he gets to live a normal life, but he's really good at it. Like, it would be a benefit to everybody if he had stayed. But, and first of all, the fact that Kian, is probably one of the greatest dads in Isekai. Well, Subaru's dad. But there's a few really solid dads in Isekai, actually, now that I think about it. But Kian giving his son options, right? Like, he is this assassin. He is this cold-hearted assassin, right? Kian and Lug are both assassins. They are there to do a job. But Kian still stands tall and gives his son options, even though it likely broke his heart, because Kian tells Lug way back when that they are assassins, but they are not tools. They are people, right? And they can feel emotion. They are allowed to have attachments and feel things. They just have to also be aware that at the end of the day, they are assassins, right? And so he gives Lug the option, knowing that if Lug picked his old life as Ilig Balar, that would likely have broken Kian's heart completely, as well as Lug's mom, who is still weird, if you were curious, still very strange, sniffing my boy's hair for a little too long. Sniffing hair in general, a little weird, but even then, she does it a little too long. But Kian giving his son options is great. And I just love this man, especially when he finds out the other thing that we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, the fact that Kian is just so friggin' great. I love this man so much. It's just good to have him back. I think him and, as I said, Kian and Maha are definitely my two favorites in the show. I'm just glad to have him back. Losing Maha sucks, but having Kian back, I'll certainly take. But the big thing this week for me, in terms of what Lug does, the big thing is Maha, but the second biggest thing, and the big thing for Lug this week, is his decision that is made between being an assassin versus being a merchant, right? So he could have lived an incredibly happy life just being a merchant in Miltu. Miltu's a great city, could have lived there, been very happy, had a good family, maybe I don't know, build more shops, even maybe expand his empire a little bit, not literally an empire, but you know what I mean. Expand his business a bit and lived a very happy and likely pretty wealthy life. But instead he chooses to be an assassin. He chooses to remain a Tuahade, right? He chooses to remain Lug Tuahade. And he does this because he is an assassin, right? The Lug that we know in his previous life, Old Man Lug, who is still the finest Lug. Old Man Lug is a silver fox. But Lug chooses to remain an assassin because, well, yes, he was an assassin in his previous life. It's what he's good at. He's choosing to be one because Kian has shown him a different way. You know what I mean? He even calls him Dad, which I really appreciate. Even though Lug is probably older than Kian, he still refers to him as Dad, which I really appreciate. Because it's essentially like choosing his new life, right? Like choosing this over the old way of doing things, right? Like the old assassin in him is gone, and he is this new, an assassin with emotions, an assassin with a heart. He's no longer going to be just a tool. And that moment to me was huge. Seeing Lug go from being this like emotionless assassin to where he is now, we see the emotions coming out of him little by little throughout the show, and now here we are, what is this, like 8 episodes later? And Lug decides that he is going to choose to be the assassin that that Kian would want him to become. Kian showed him a different way of doing things, and he's really embracing that, and he's going to become an assassin to protect the ones he cares about, to protect their happiness, instead of just to be a tool that is meant to carry out jobs. He's doing it for a reason. He's doing it to better his world, and he's gonna stay skeptical as well. He's not gonna just trust authority figures, right? He's not just gonna trust his bosses. He's not just gonna trust the goddess. He's staying very skeptical, which I do think is a good idea because the goddess is a little sus. I'm not going to lie to you, but he's gonna stay skeptical and he will not die again. Now, I will say that them setting up the fact that you could always the kingdom can't protect you, so if something happens, they'll have to abandon you, and you could maybe fall back on your old life. I have a feeling that this story is going to end with Lug dying, quote unquote, and then just the next time we see him, he'll be Illig again. Like and everyone will know that it's him, right? Like Maha will know, his mom and dad will know, and Dia and Tart and everybody, like they'll all know, right? That's my assumption, is that that's how this story ends, is that Lug just essentially becomes Illig again as Lug's persona disappears. Probably in the big fight with the hero at some point. But that's not the only thing. There is cannons on one of the ships now. One of the ships got some very nifty, shiny looking cannons, and that is Lug and Dia, which was a hell of a surprise. I was not expecting Dia to be the one that Lug picks. Not only that, but for Lug to say that he had planned on marrying Dia, and one of the reasons that he wants to remain Lug Tuahade is because he needs to be a noble to marry a noble. Okay. That was a hell of a shock. I did not see that coming, but to be fair, the ED is very much like it plays on that, and it is cute, right? Like the fact that he shows up like friggin' Aladdin at her window, and they have like adventures and stuff, and then he goes back and he sees her like bare minimum once a month and stuff like that. I do understand the ship. I just find it strange, because it's not what I would have guessed, and also like I give Ascendants of a Bookworm a lot of shit for this, but mine is a full-ass adult who has a crush on Lutz, who is a child. So I cannot give Luke the same pass. Like I cannot give Luke a pass when I give mine shit. So I will say, a little weird. A little weird. But maybe that's just me. By a little weird, I mean weird. But I'm going to pretend like there's a reason for it. I don't really want to ship Luke with anybody. If I had to, I guess it would be Dia. But I like the idea that Luke is ace and maybe even aromantic. That Luke just, he's not really interested in romance, but he is interested in the people that he loves and cares about. There is many different types of love, and Luke even points it out that it's not romantic, if that's what you're implying, when Tart says that Maha loves him. He says it's admiration and you'll understand when you're older, right? And I do think that maybe Luke is aware that maybe he is ace. He is ace and aromantic. I personally am ace, but I am not aromantic. But it would be cool if we got some ace and aro rep in the show, and maybe Luke is one. With anime, oftentimes it's a lot of reading between the lines, so Luke could totally be ace and aromantic. And maybe this engagement to Dia has like ulterior motives, because we know that Luke often does have ulterior motives. Or maybe Luke just actually did fall for Dia. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But with that said, that's it for me. Outro. And that's gonna do it for another video for this week, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you are here. And before we go, as always, I have to give a big thank you to my wonderful masters who help keep this channel afloat. And of course, I have to give a special thank you to the Masters of Masters. And they are Izevi, Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, Trevor W, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for your continued support. It means the world to me, and if you too would like to see your name scrolling past the screen, or maybe have your voice shouted out at the end of these videos, be sure to check out that link in the description to our Patreon page, or you can hit the join button right beside the sub button. Either way helps out tremendously, and I thank you a lot for it. And yeah, that's it for me. So, until next time, make sure you clean your room. It's filthy. Seriously, a clean room is a clean mind. Just think about it, okay? Anyway, bye.